So this is going to be kind of off anything that we've talked about so far. It's something that I've been scouring, trying to see if anybody's really talked about this. Because I know there's a lot of channels that like to dedicate themselves to. What is that? Am I bleeding? I know there's a lot of channels that dedicate themselves to doing twists in movies and horror genre stuff and different stuff like that, right? But I have not yet found anyone that's covered this movie and asked this question, right? So I'm going to ask it. So in the movie Frailty, you get introduced to Matthew McConaughey, right? And Matthew McConaughey is going in to confess that he knows who this killer is. Oh, by the way, I'm going to spoil the hell out of this movie. So you've been warned. So McConaughey goes in to see Powers Booth and said, I know who this killer is, the God's Hand killer. It's my brother. And then they go into the whole story. How do you know this? Blah, blah, blah. The first real twist, if you pay attention to it. Anyway, sorry. I got distracted with something above my head. Anyways, so you go through this thing. He goes to check on it. Doesn't really give his name. If you notice throughout the whole thing, he never really gives his name. It's suggested when Powers Booth calls into the sheriff's station, his name is Fenton, but it never comes out of McConaughey's mouth, right? Never does. You go into the story about back in 1979, God spoke to his dad, and he needed to destroy demons, right? So you go through the whole movie, you go through the whole flashback, not the whole movie, but the whole flashback. And the one question that I never see anyone ask, because it's clearly suggested by multiple people, hinted at everything else in the movie, right? It's hinted at that Fenton is a demon. Never confirmed, but it's constantly hinted at. So just like we buy into Matthew McConaughey's name at the beginning of the movie being Fenton because it's suggested to us, and there's a twist later on, right? It's suggested that Fenton is a demon. Here's my thing, though. Now, God came to their dad because he was a good man, because he would do the Lord's work, right? Here's the thing. Here's the thing that no one ever brings up about this movie. He did kill an innocent man. He killed the sheriff to hide the secret of him slaying demons. Now, I dare you to go back and watch this movie underneath this context, all right? In that moment, he was no longer useful to God. Because in the Christian lore, let's go off of lore now, right? If you're doing the act of God, you're not allowed to touch innocent human beings, correct? The sheriff is a good man who should have never been touched. In that moment, what Bill Paxton's character should have done, instead of doubling down and hiding that he was the God's Hand killer, right? He should have been honest. He should have been forthright. Your son sold you out. The rightful thing, the justful thing, everything to do is to admit to your deeds. That is what you're taught, right? So after he kills the sheriff and he puts Fenton down in the cellar, right? He puts Fenton down there for, it's suggested, like 2 weeks. And then Fenton says he goes into, McConaughey says that he goes into insanity, Fenton. And that Fenton has the vision from God, that he knows what he has to do. The one thing I don't see anyone asking is, instead of Fenton being a demon, what if God really did come to him and said, you have to take care of your dad because he killed the innocent man? No one, I've never seen anyone bring that up. Everyone brings up the twists. Everyone brings up that the ending of the movie confirmed God exists, and that God is protecting McConaughey because he is a just man. He's able to do the Lord's work and what needs to be done. But I've never seen anyone bring up, what if God really did come to Fenton and say, you have to take out your dad now because he went against my code for what I'm asking him to do, and he unjustly killed an innocent man. I need you to do that. What if that is actually what happened? What if Fenton was never a demon to begin with? Interesting, like, little tidbit about that movie, right? Just something that pops into your head, because you have so many twists throughout that movie. Like, first, like, you think McConaughey is Fenton, but he actually turns out to be Adam, the younger brother. And then it turns out that Fenton turned into a killer because of what he did. Right? Frailty. What movie? Frailty. Like, what if that was... What if that was the actual crux of the movie? What if the human choice of killing an innocent person is what turns them into a demon, and what turns them from being, God's messenger, God's avenger, to demon? I don't know. I just always... I watched it recently, and then I went back and I looked to see if anybody had ever covered the twist. No one's even covered the movie to do the twists on the movie, and the movie has like 3 or 4 amazing twists, one after the other at the end of the movie. And not only that, but the story is gripping. Like, it's really carried through great acting all the way around. But I've never heard anyone actually ever bring up that twist. You've never heard that? Go look it up. Bill Paxton, Matthew McConaughey, Powers Booth, a few others in it. But it's definitely something to think about when you're watching the movie. Like, he gets put down in that cellar for a good 2 weeks. It's to the point of where he goes into delirium. Native Americans would call it the spirit walk. They fast themselves and walk out into the desert until they have a vision. And basically the same thing. He saw God, and God told him, your dad's wrong. And it's always been a weird thing, because it wasn't even until the last time I watched it that I questioned it. It was like, yeah, what if, because he killed an innocent man, that automatically transferred it to the son? Just a weird thing I was popping up. Hopefully somebody will cover this in detail and make a video out of it in the actual coverage of Frailty, covering the twists and everything that go into the movie. And hopefully this gets brought up. Don't know if it will, but if you guys have not seen it, it is a great early 2000. I think it's 2001. early 2000s gem. Uh, really young McConaughey, young Bill Paxton. Well, younger Bill Paxton. He still plays the dad role. This is like a couple years after he did Twister. So, I mean, still within that same ballpark of an era. But great acting all the way around. Powers Booth is always awesome. If you guys have not seen it, go out and watch it. Take it easy, guys.